The series begins in a prison yard. An unnamed man is seen leaving prison after completing his sentence. He hijacks a car and rides off to the city. He arrives in Manhattan and goes to see an old friend named Job. Job is a former hacker and now works in a hair salon. However, Job is clearly not happy to see our protagonist. Our protagonist demands the address of a woman named Carrie Hopewell, and he proceeds to destroy the computers in Job's office until the former hacker obliges. After obtaining Carrie's address, the protagonist proceeds to leave, but outside, he notices some men waiting for him in the car. He smiles as if he was expecting them and attempts to flee in his car. The men chase him through the streets, and our protagonist loses control of his car and crashes. The men start shooting him indiscriminately, but fortunately, he manages to get away after stealing a bike from a citizen. Then he heads to a town called Banshee, where Carrie allegedly lives. The scene cuts to a courtroom, where we're introduced to Kai Proctor, a local gangster and a corrupt politician. He's in court for one of his many illegal activities. However, using his reach and influence, he easily wins the case, escaping the prosecution of a feared state prosecutor named Gordon Hopewell. It turns out Gordon is the husband of Carrie and has 2 kids with her. Later, the protagonist is seen spying on Carrie from her garden. He then makes his way to a bar. There, he meets the bar owner, Sugar Bates. Bates is a former cruiserweight boxer. The two get to talking, and they bond over Bates's boxing career. Bate reveals that he also spent 8 years in prison, which solidifies their bond. As they continue to talk, a man named Lucas Hood appears from the bathroom. It turns out Lucas Hood is the new sheriff of the Banshee. Next, a couple armed robbers show up to spoil things. However, an unfazed Hood continues to eat his steak dinner. This hurts the robbers' ego, and they attack the sheriff. Lucas fights back and attacks one of the men, while the other draws a gun on the sheriff. Our protagonist tries to calm the situation down and negotiate with the goons, but it doesn't go well. A bloody brawl ensues, which results in the death of both of the robbers, as well as the newly appointed sheriff. Fortunately, Bates agrees to take care of the corpses and advises our protagonist to leave the scene. After the brutal incident, our protagonist goes to see Carrie, or Anna. It turns out Carrie has changed her identity. Carrie is not happy about seeing him, but he asks her about her kids, specifically her daughter Dava. He also gets emotional about Carrie not visiting him once during his 15-year sentence. It turns out Carrie and our protagonist are ex-criminals and partners. During their last job together, he had lured the cops away from Carrie, which resulted in him getting caught. Carrie regrets the past and expresses regret over stealing from someone named Rabbit. The protagonist then brushes his emotions aside and demands his cut of their final job, which was stealing diamonds. However, Carrie claims that all the diamonds, which were valued at around $10 million, were taken from her by Serbian guys. This shocks him as it shatters his dreams of comfortable life after prison. Dejected, he leaves and goes back to the bar to help Bates clean up the mess, considering he now has nothing to lose. They take the dead bodies to a nearby forest, and as they proceed to bury Lucas Hood, the slain sheriff's cell phone rings. It's Mayor Dan Kendall on the phone. The protagonist swiftly takes the call and talks to Mayor Dan, pretending to be Lucas Hood. Bates watches in bewilderment as the protagonist craftily impersonates Lucas. Mayor Dan invites Lucas to his office, and it turns out the former has never met the real Lucas. The new Lucas then calls Job to help him forge his new identity as the sheriff, while washing off the sheriff's badge, as if washing away his old identity too. In the past, the protagonist was one of the most notorious thieves in the US before getting caught and thrown in prison for 15 years. Later, Bates offers the new Lucas a room at his place, as they've already become close friends. The next day, Kai arrives at the bar and asks Bates about the 2 robbers. It turns out the 2 robbers who died the previous day were Kai's men. However, Bates lies to him and sends him off. Meanwhile, Lucas prepares for his meeting with Mayor Dan inside the diner. To Lucas's surprise, the two form a really good connection, and the mayor doesn't suspect him at all. Mayor Dan also informs Lucas that his main job is to take down the gangster Kai Proctor. Back in Manhattan, Job is confronted by the very same people who were hunting Lucas in the beginning. The goons interrogate Job about Lucas's whereabouts, but Job refuses to yield any information. Job soon figures out that the goons work for Rabbit, and he somehow manages to escape. As Job drives off with his assistant, he detonates some explosives in the building to take the goons out. Back in Banshee, Lucas is taken to the police station, or the Caddy, an old Cadillac dealership where he's introduced to the rest of the police force, including Brock Lotus, the longest-serving member of the department, Emmett Yonners, Siobhan Kelly, a female officer, and Alma, the receptionist. Later, when Brock takes Lucas out on a drive through the town, they come across some goons led by Cole Moody, giving an Amish man a hard time. Instinctively, Lucas confronts the goons and starts a brawl. He takes them on with ease, and all of a sudden, Kai Proctor shows up. It turns out that the Amish man that Cole and the others had been picking on was Kai's father, much to the surprise of Lucas and the goons. Kai is a feared figure around Banshee, and he gets extremely upset with Cole. Cole and his men are apologetic, and Kai decides against physically harming them in front of the new sheriff, and seemingly forgives the goons after making them perform some labor work as punishment. Afterwards, Kai introduces himself to Lucas. He hands him a card for his meat company and leaves after saying goodbye to his dad. However, Kai's father doesn't reciprocate the goodbye, and it becomes clear that the old man wants nothing to do with his criminal son. After the encounter with Kai, Lucas runs into Carrie's daughter, Dava. For some reason, he craftily reads her ID from her wallet. Lo and behold, he learns that Carrie had lied to him about Dava's age. Meanwhile, at the slaughterhouse, Kai summons Cole to talk about his behavior earlier, especially to discuss the insulting and rude things he called Kai's father. When Cole shows up, Kai beats the hell out of Cole, knocking out his teeth before making him leave. The next day, Kelly and Lucas are seen in the police station getting ready for Lucas's swearing-in ceremony. After Lucas gets sworn in, he's invited to a big party at Proctor's place. The party draws everyone rich and influential in town, including the Hopewells, the police, and everybody of any importance. In the background always hovers Kai's personal bodyguard, Clay Burton. At the party, Lucas again comes face to face with Carrie, who is shocked by his new identity. Lucas formally introduces himself to Carrie's husband and acts as if he's never met them before. At the party, Lucas is also introduced to a few of the big important figures around Banshee, including Chief Benjamin Longshadow and his son Alex. Later, Lucas approaches Carrie in the parking lot. They argue that what Lucas is doing is wrong and that he should leave Banshee. It soon becomes clear that Carrie is not pleased about Lucas sticking around her, whereas his infatuation with her has never faded. She leaves the parking lot, then out of nowhere, Cole shows up and knocks Lucas over with a punch. He then heads into the party with a gun, looking for Kai to take revenge for his beating the other day. Luckily, Lucas arrives and takes Cole down with one shot, surprising everyone. The series then cuts to the next day, where Lucas wakes up from dreams of his former life before he was sent behind bars. He's sleeping on the floor, which means he still hasn't gotten used to sleeping on a soft bed. His flashbacks also show us a time before, with Carrie, when they had decided to go against Rabbit. The scene then cuts to Kai having a drug operation running smoothly under the supervision of a sleazy young guy, Chris Hansen. Later, Hansen gets information from an Amish boy on a farmhouse, which he intends to use to throw a party. Meanwhile, Lucas is still planning to infiltrate Carrie's life one way or another. Carrie works as a real estate agent, and Lucas keeps showing up at her job. He eventually manages to ignite a spark in her for him, and they share a kiss. However, she soon gains her composure and pulls herself back. All of a sudden, she gets a call from Dava's teacher saying that Dava hasn't shown up at school. Dava is seen with two friends in a car, including a shady boy named Reed. Reed takes them to Kai's disciple Chris Hansen's drug house. When she meets the dangerous Hansen, she's both creeped out and interested in him. Deva gets invited to Hansen's party, which will take place the next day. Back at the station, Brock confronts Lucas for not answering his walkie-talkie. However, Lucas couldn't care less and rebukes him in front of all the other officers. Before Brooke could respond, Kai shows up and takes Lucas to his office to talk. The butcher gangster brings some Kobe beef as a gift for Lucas. Kai informs Lucas that Cole's brothers won't be happy with Lucas for shooting their brother dead. Kai tries to make it a big deal and offers to help him in order to get in his good books. However, Lucas is keen on doing things his way and respectfully declines Kai's help. This upsets Kai, and he goes to Bates's place. It turns out Bates and Kai are old allies, and the latter asks the former whether he thinks the sheriff who lives in his home is bothering him. Kai is slightly threatened with Lucas living above Bates's bar. However, Bates assures him that he's fine. Later that night, Cole's family organizes a get-together in memory of Cole in Bates's bar. Lucas is also hanging out in the bar, so Bates also suggests he leave, as Cole's brothers are very upset with him for killing their brother. He obliges, but outside, he's confronted by Kat Moody. She slaps him for killing her husband, while Marcus and Dex, Cole's brothers, point guns at him. However, Lucas handles the situation and Bates also intervenes and breaks the tension. The next day, Carrie and her husband Gordon try to talk to Deva about her constant absence from school. However, fed up with hearing her parents bicker, she storms off to her room. Meanwhile, Lucas is having problems filling out paperwork for the death of Cole Moody, as he's still very new to his fake police identity. However, Kelly gives him advice and guides him along. The scene then cuts to the young Amish boy who gave Chris Hansen information about the farmhouse. The boy's father, Elijah Bowman, finds out about the party after his son drops a wad of cash in front of him, which was given to him by Hansen. He reports the upcoming rave party. After learning about the illegal party, Lucas and the other deputies suit up to head off to the big rave. Deva and her friends also sneak out to the party. At the party, Deva tries to attract the attention of Hansen, but he ignores her. Later, she gets peer pressured into taking pills with Reed and her other female friend. Soon, the deputies and the sheriff arrive outside. Lucas decides to go undercover, taking out all the guards on his way in. In the party with loud music and drugs everywhere, Deva and Reed are having the time of their lives dancing. One thing leads to another, and they start making out. High on ecstasy, Reed decides to take more drugs and he overdoses. Deva cries out for help, but no one pays attention to them. Luckily, Lucas arrives. He notices that many others are facing the same situation. He drags Reed to a less crowded area and comforts Deva. Then, as the other deputies enter the farmhouse, Hansen opens fire and runs out through the back. Hansen takes off before Lucas can catch him. Lucas starts chasing Hansen's men and he manages to take one of them down. However, he doesn't notice the other one behind him pointing a gun at his head. Luckily, Deputy Emmett arrives at the scene and shoots the guy, which saves Lucas just in time. Back in the farmhouse, all attempts to save Reed go down the drain and he passes away, much to Deva's horror and grief. Later, Kai learns about the rave, and it turns out Hansen stole from him and organized the party inside the Banshee County, which is against Kai's ethics. Moreover, it's revealed that Reed is the son of a state senator. For punishment, Kai sends his dogs after him, who tear him apart. Meanwhile, Lucas takes Deva and her friend home. He gives her an almost fatherly talk about death, watching someone die, and so on. He lets Deva out of the car and watches as she runs up to her father, Gordon. The next day, Carrie is seen sneaking into Mr. Rabbit's residence. Carrie returns him his diamonds and demands him to get out of her life for good. However, Mr. Rabbit is still not satisfied and demands Lucas. It's then revealed that Mr. Rabbit is Carrie's father, and the relationship between them soured after Carrie ran away with his diamonds. Carrie agrees to bring Lucas to him. However, before leaving, she drugs Mr. Rabbit and takes the diamonds with her. Back in Banshee, Kai hosts a fighting event at the Kinaho Moon Casino. The casino is run by Benjamin Longshadow's tribe, who is happy to have things running smoothly. However, his son Alex doesn't feel the same way on his side of things. The professional UFC fighter Damian Sanchez arrives at the casino along with his team and manager Doug. To help run things more smoothly, Kai provides Sanchez with a naked white woman in his trailer, along with a bag full of cash. In the meantime, Lucas has bad flashbacks of his time in jail. A massive albino haunts his memories, having brutalized him violently in his cell. Later in the day, many people, including Lucas and Carrie's family, attend the funeral of Reed. The senator and his family are clearly devastated. After the funeral, Gordon invites Lucas over for lunch at the Hopewell's residence, much to Carrie's dismay. At lunch at Carrie's place, we learn that her son has bad lungs, which forces him to use a machine to help him breathe. With the kids inside and as Gordon leaves to get more food, Lucas and Carrie start to argue about their past. Too tired to bicker, Lucas leaves the residence at a moment's notice. In the evening, Lucas and Rebecca meet and once again have fun. Soon after, it's revealed that Rebecca is also the niece of Kai, as Sugar calls him to pick her up. The next day, Damian is seen sparring in the casino. Meanwhile, Lucas shows up at the casino and questions Kai about the drugs used in the previous rave party, which makes him nervous, and so he changes the topic instantly. At night, Lucas gets a visit from Carrie. She brings him the diamonds that were supposedly previously stolen. She offers them for him to get lost and leave Banshee, but now he doesn't want to leave and prefers to stick around a while. Meanwhile, Damian invites another girl named Chloe up into his trailer, but things get violent pretty quickly. He makes her take cocaine by putting it on his fingers and sticking them inside her, and then proceeds to rape her while hitting her continuously. She tries to escape, but Damian doesn't allow her to leave. The next day, Chloe walks out of the trailer with a swollen face and bloody nose and goes to the hospital all by herself. In the police station, Kelly and Lucas are informed of the sexual assault on Chloe and rush to the hospital. They meet the distraught Chloe and she starts to explain the sequence of events that occurred last night. It's clear that Lucas cares about Chloe and is infuriated with what Damian has done. Without hesitation, Lucas and Siobhan leave for the casino. The same day turns out to be Damian's fight day, but this doesn't stop Lucas from arresting him. However, Damian tries to avoid getting handcuffed and taunts Lucas to get inside the ring to fight him. Angry, Lucas steps into the ring and an impromptu brawl takes place. At first, Lucas gets pummeled, but starts seeing flashbacks of his life in prison. This propels Lucas into a state of maniac rage and brutally beats Damian to a pulp, breaking his hands and arms while maintaining major injuries himself. Bates helps Lucas and takes him home. However, Lucas's actions do not sit well with Proctor. He is highly offended by the sheriff's actions, costing him plenty of money for disrupting and putting off the fight. He also expects to get his money back from Doug, as the main fight didn't take place. So his assistant, Clay Burton, goes to get it. Doug seems to be informing someone about Damian's current situation, and that his fighting days are over due to his serious injuries. Clay requests for the money, but Doug doesn't oblige and instead insults Clay before going inside his trailer. As a result, Clay's real psychotic nature is revealed as he runs into the trailer and kills Doug.